Go live. We're live, guys. Showtime. Hi, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending upon where you are today. Today, we're going to talk about the project manager versus product manager. Seems like a very dry topic to me because I've always been otherwise talking about the business wisdom and some higher things in life and all that. But I think it's perhaps relevant to many of you who are out there, either have joined the workforce looking for what is my next career graph or growth chart, or otherwise you will be getting into a new company, or thinking about, I have someone sitting here next to me and he's thinking about starting his business, and he's thinking, what skills do I need? Project management or product management? Or may I need both or only one? Now, well, let's talk about it. In simple words, project management is in charge of projects, CEO of executing a project. And a product management is CEO of a product. Now, what is this project and product? I'll give you a very interesting example I came across recently. Many of us know about Nokia phones and BlackBerry phones, right? I'm sure many of you remember. Some of you may be too young to remember, but let's say, I'll assume most of you remember. Before this iPhone and Android, we used to have Nokia and a BlackBerry. Great phones. I perhaps had every single model that BlackBerry released in the 90s. I mean, one after the other, we used to take pride. I mean, just like we open our new iPhone. By the way, I just got my iPhone 13 last week, and I used to have perhaps bigger thrill in opening those BlackBerry new models than I have now with iPhone 13. I mean, nice keyboards and all that. Now, what happened to those companies? Where are they now? Those companies were billion-dollar revenue companies, wonderful execution, wonderful phones. What happened? Product mindset versus project mindset. They all executed the projects they had set out for themselves well. On time, great software, great, but they lacked the product mindset. Product mindset, which guy like Steve Jobs had. Steve Jobs felt that innovation needs to come in cell phone market. I'm just going to bring one of the aspects of success of iPhone. I'm sure a lot of case studies have been done, but I from in thing which is relevant to today's talk, a product mindset looks at the changing market, changing product requirement, changing innovation requirement in the market, and responds to that. Whereas a project mindset will look at the project the way it has to be done and executes it well. So, did Nokia and BlackBerry, did they have product mindset? No. Did they have project mindset? 120%. They executed newer models and everything quite well, but couldn't see the changing market requirements. So that is the product manager versus project manager. Product is more than just is in front of your eyes, it is looking beyond. Project manager is focused, blinders on, keep marching till you execute the project. Scope, budget, schedule. These are the three major things for a project manager, whereas market, and product requirements and customer needs, that is product manager. That is in summary. Now let's go through some questions that have come for us. I have been working as a project manager. Can I now become a product manager? Very well. I mean, yes, you can. In fact, a good career path, provided you have a good way to look beyond, as I said earlier. Look beyond what is in front of you. There are few common things that both project managers and product manager need to have. That is a good time management skill and good leadership and good communication skills. because both project manager and product manager need to communicate with the teams, with the upper management. They also need to have exhibit good leadership skill and time management skill to some degree. The project manager would be more of a time management guy than product manager, but still both of them need that. So yes, if you feel you have ability to think strategically, ability to think beyond what is in front of you, think about the market, the products, yes, it's a perfect way to get into the next level of product management. I myself did that several years ago. I have shared some of my career stories earlier in earlier live streams. I had joined a company called AMI in early 90s, and initially I joined as an engineer. I used to develop hardware, and then somewhere in 93, 94 I became a project manager, and I was executing on a hardware design which involved chips, which involved dealing with some vendors and some PCB boards, where chips are mounted and all that, and all those aspects I was managing. So I had a team of hardware developers, CAD, CAM, and all that stuff. I mean, was involved. So I was doing that. Then I realized that our team, our regular sales team, was not able to sell well. So I took on the role of product manager to understand the customer requirement, understand what market needed, translate that into various projects which project managers will execute. So I started becoming more customer focused, more market focused, product focused. And that's so it's a perfect, I would encourage you to do that. And I was able to really seamlessly transition myself from project manager to product manager. So I think let's go to the next question. What is the difference between project manager and a product manager? I think some of it I covered in my monologue earlier, that project manager is the CEO of project, product manager is CEO of product. So both of them are needed in executing a successful thing, but you know project manager needs to keep his blinders on, need to focus on the scope given to him, schedule given to him, and budgets given to him. Make sure the project gets executed around these things. Whereas a product manager needs to look at, is the product relevant for the market, or is going to be relevant for the market, let's say by the time it comes out. Suppose example I gave you of Nokia and BlackBerry. Let's take another example of a product manager's role. Instagram, I think many of us use that, right? Instagram had a feature of stories, and then they had a feature of uh, you know stories, and of course the photos that you post. But they didn't have videos. When I think few years ago, when we all started using Instagram, they felt Instagram, somewhere their product manager may have felt that they are letting people put their videos on some other platforms and losing that market, right? More video content people are producing, but they are not using Instagram to post those videos. Instead, they are using, let's say, TikTok, or of course TikTok, many people for shorter videos, and on YouTube for longer videos. So what Instagram, some product manager would have thought, let me introduce reels. Now reels are there, how about the long form video, IGTV? So product manager looks at what is customer's requirement and gives those requirements back to the set of project managers to add to the product, right? Hope it gives you a general feel for what a product manager's role is. In some way, I used to, in earlier days, now it's all digital, but in earlier days when products used to be sold in the retail market on the shelf, we used to define product manager as a guy who decides what goes on the shelf, right? A box, the design of a box, collateral, and the product that goes inside the box. Let's say you're buying a camera or a headphone or something like that. How should it look like? What kind of features it should have? All those things are product manager. He gives it back. From that multiple projects are created for various product managers, software, hardware, uh, sheet metal, depending upon what kind of things are needed in the product. Various projects get defined, and those project teams will execute on that. So let's go to the next one. Who earns more, a project manager or a product manager? There's a mistake there. I think on the write up it says both project, but actually it's a product manager. Who earns more? Guess. Any guesses? Who earns more? Product manager. A typical product manager salary, based on some industry estimates, is about $120,000. And I think in today's era of great resignation, if you ask me, in US, perhaps it's 150 to $180,000. But I'll go with the survey results. It's 120. Project manager survey results say about 70 to 80. I would say in today's time, more like 90. But you can see product managers have potential to earn almost twice as much. Why? Because they are looking at a higher thing. They're looking at more strategic things. They're looking at more market requirements, and they can make or break a company. They can make or break a product. But at the same time, I'll tell you, I also looked at the number of project manager jobs versus product manager jobs which are available in the market. Hands down, project manager jobs are almost 10 times that of product manager jobs. In a company, typically, for every product or every aspect of a very large product, you may need one person. Let's say, I just give you an example, again, going back to Instagram, the video functionality in Instagram, they may have one product manager. And they may have another product manager for Reels, another product manager for something else, and they all report into director of product management. He reports into the VP of products, right? That's the kind of structure they might have. But in every product manager will come back with requirements, and that will create 3 to 4 projects, or if not more, and you need project managers for those. So for every product manager, you may need multiple project managers. One question somebody is asking on the side is, what is a career path for a product manager and a project manager? Very good question. See, the career path for a product manager is usually getting into director of product management. I mean, product companies which are designing products, they usually have that position. And one aspect which I didn't cover, the detailed role of product manager is he looks at market requirements, customers' needs, comes up with user stories. I'm sure many of you who are in the development field may have heard this. User stories, how users are going to use this product and convert that user story into requirements. Right? That is very, very important aspect of product manager. Of course, in that process, he has to consult with sales teams, marketing teams, engineering teams, and upper management to come up with all these user story. We used to, back in the day when I did product companies, we used to have some document called product requirement document called PRD, which used to have all aspects of products covered in that. Now, a product manager, his career path is that if he has successful products to his sleeve, he has done something well, he gets promoted to director of product management. Then eventually to VP of product management. Then, of course, in every layer, you may have multiple people in the next layer reporting to you, the layer below reporting to you. Eventually, many of the companies, larger companies, have a chief product officer, right? They do have that, or in some cases, VP of product management is also a good candidate to become CTO of the company, depending upon his attitude and how he presents well to the customers, right? CTOs are, in many cases, are evangelists of the product in a company. And a project manager, that's a very tricky question. I mean, a project manager could also move up to a director of project management, but there is no chief project officer. And that's where I find personally, even though I love project managers and I love people taking up that role because those are needed very well, I always feel that, there's a saying in US we say when shit hits the fan, the person who gets fired first is project managers. I'm sorry to say that. I have seen that too many times happen in front of me, not to mention that to you guys who are aspiring to be project managers. Do it with a caution. A developer, an engineer who's needed to develop the product, engineer who's needed to engineer the project are always needed. A director of engineering, director of software, VP of software, that's their path. Principal engineer, technical architect, that's a path they follow. Project manager track, I am not, I have seen it too many times, and I'll give you an example. 2007 8, when the economy really had become very bad in US, we used to go out for lunch and we saw the cloud thinning out. And here, sitting in Alpharetta, many of you know I live in Alpharetta. Sitting in Alpharetta, I would see people in the lunch places, in the usual restaurants, sitting there. And when you talk to them, you'll find people who have been kept in the jobs are programmers, engineers, database architects. All the project managers are gone. I mean, because the economy was going down and they had to fire some people, they got rid of project managers in the company because they needed to keep the lights on. You get that point? They needed to keep the software on, they needed to keep the payroll on, they needed to keep all their internal software working so that teams can sell whatever little sale they are doing right now. Economy is bad. They're not doing any new projects. Get rid of that. Now, whereas in case of product managers, they have a more market focus. They are needed to look at what market requirements are there. So that is the flip side of those things. But I just wanted to cover that for you, Ram. Let's go to the next question. In the future, who will be more in demand, a project manager or product manager? Some of it I have covered in my previous response, where I mentioned that when you look at, I looked at some survey and they said, there are number of product manager openings. I guess some analysis, they say about 6 to 8,000. They're talking, of course, about US, whereas project manager openings 60 to 80,000. So almost 10 times project managers needed because for every product you have multiple projects. So that is where the demand is. But if you personally ask me, if you are a project manager already, think very hard about becoming product manager. It's a great career path for you. It will make you more market focused. See, product manager goes from ideation to execution, whereas project manager is more focused on execution, right? So that ideation, the higher you rise in terms of your mental abilities that are needed to perform your job, more money you get paid, more scope you have. I have seen multiple times product managers make for a perfect CEO material also, eventually. I I mean, you can give my example too. I was a project manager, became product manager. From there, I got into OEM sales, director of OEM sales, VP of OEM sales, chief operating officer, and the CEO. That was a career path. I followed CEO of multiple companies since then. But I think that is, I have seen multiple times that either a person who's heading the engineering, he ends up becoming CEO of a technology company, of course, we're talking about here, or a good product management person becomes a CEO. And in fact, a product management person, or even if engineering person does become, he becomes because he has good knowledge of the product. Product management folks make for a perfect CEO material because they already have good knowledge of engineering abilities, marketing abilities, market abilities, customer requirements, so they can really present very well and make the company grow. Right? So let's go to the next question. How hard is it to transition between the two, project and product? It's not that easy. As I said, some good project managers that I have worked with in my life, they are heavily focused on execution, keeping their blinders on, working on, as I said, scope, budget, schedule. Scope, budget, schedules. They're wonderful. They're great communicators, have great leadership skill, but at the end of the day, they look at the scope, they look at the schedule, they look at the budget, execution. I don't know how many of you have seen the Friends series, from a long time ago. There's a TV series called Friends. It's there on Netflix and all. Monica, there was a character called Monica. Perfect example of project manager. I mean, just task oriented, taskmaster. Product manager, thinker, innovator, right? So if you think you have it in you, you can make that transition. If you think I know one of the guys that I used to talk to or mentor at times. He was in project management, and I think I had similar discussion with him, and I think he ended up becoming VP of engineering at another company, and if I am not mistaken, he's now a VP of product management at a third company, and I think he's thriving there, as I'm told. And because he did his MBA, and he had done his MBA earlier, so he did already had knack for understanding market, understanding business. So which he was not utilizing in his project management job or in his engineering job. I think I'm glad he ended up utilizing that. Let's go to the next one. What skills do product managers and project managers have in common? I think the common skill they all have is ability to manage, good communication, and leadership to some degree. And those are good skills to have. And those are very, very good skills to have. And they those are common across both of them. But product managers more external focused, market ideation, project blinders on, guys. Right? Okay, let's go to the next. Can we go to the next? How do I choose between project management and product management? I think you should look at what you're good at. At the end of the day, I mean, I think career path, all these things. I have a firm belief that, and it's backed by strong experience from my own life. I studied engineering. I couldn't go to the graduate school for master's program. Couldn't do MBA. Many times thought about it, or any other business degree or business program. And I have run multiple businesses, so it's possible, depending upon what kind of person you are and how good you are in that. So I think it's a very good question from that perspective. Whether you want to be project management or a project manager or product manager, whatever you do or whatever you're good at depends on how good you are in that. You can manage a project so well that CEO would come to you and he'll give you the most critical, most strategic project for the existence of the company and say, help me manage it. That is your chance. And next day you find your chief product officer, chief strategy officer, all, chief technology officer, all put in one. Right? I mean, I've seen that happen. Or you're in product management and you're really, really good at it. Next day, the CEO say, he's my successor. I mean, of course, may give you from product manager to director or VP, and then say that he's my successor after this. So I think it is possible, to be to have the corner office, as they say, in either of those roles. More likely to be from the product management than to project management side, but it's possible on either of those sides. But how do you choose? If you find yourself to be a person who's more task oriented, who's more blinders on, again, triangle, scope, time management, and budget. I mean, if you keep these three, your mind, if you think more about that, you're a great project manager. If you think more about how the user is going to use my product, or thinking more about solving users' problem, you're a product manager, right? How the user is going to look at the product. I mean, when you sleep, do you envision the user unveiling your product and looking at the first screen or the first thing that he sees? I mean, look at the product managers who design the Apple product. I mean, now of course many companies follow that. I mean, model, and coming out with this cool, nice packaging and nice first experience and all that. But I mean, that's what product managers think about. How user would be feeling, thinking, when he opens a box or installs the software or downloads the software, first screen, wow factor, right? Product manager's job. Let's go to the next one. Do employers focus on certifications for both the roles? Yes, I mean, I think product managers usually don't have any certification, and at least that not that I know of. Project management do. I mean, and I think engineers in working in IT do end up becoming good project managers, and they kind of go with PMP. Incidentally, our MSys training team also offers those courses. I'm just making a plug for them, but they do have that. I don't remember seeing any good courses for product management, though I'm sure there are if you search for some. But I have not never whenever I have hired product managers in my life, I've never looked for certification. I've looked for their prior experience. And I myself, I felt I requested, I was an engineering project manager, and I requested my management to give me a chance to be more customer facing, and they did. I excelled in that, and then of course rest is history after that for me, because I kept growing in that company to the top role, and then became CEO outside in my first startup and all that. But that's kind of so. Let's go to the next question. Can one handle both roles at the same time? You can. I mean, there are common, as I said, they're in a smaller environment. I know when I, transition from being the project manager to product manager in my life, for a while I was handling both. But then I started traveling a lot with our sales team, and I didn't have time to be more inbound to look at all the engineering teams on a daily basis. So you can handle it in a smaller environment. In startups, we say you wear multiple hats. In fact, the best product manager a startup has is their CEO or one of the founders he's one of the founders, right? He actually determines. I mean, many of you may have seen the movie The Social Network, right? I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was the developer, the project manager, and the product manager. Or maybe he was not the project manager because somebody else used to drive the timeline with him, but he was definitely the product manager and the CEO. So I think it's possible to handle, but in a smaller environment. Once you start traveling, right, being customer focused, and if your product is being sold not to consumers online, but to people in really big brick and mortar businesses, you have to start making trips, and then you will find that you are not able to do that. Tell me one of your favorite product and what you love about it. Very good question, Arush. Well, I think I don't know when you joined this session. I was earlier talking about BlackBerry, the thrill we used to get every time a new BlackBerry came to the market. But these days, of course, I would say iPhone 13, 13 Pro Max. I just got mine last week, and it is a very good product. And I think I liked various aspects of the product, starting from packaging. I really was happy that they made the boxes quite sleek, narrow. I mean, earlier iPhones that you see, the boxes were quite, deep and big. I don't know why. I think they perhaps took away the charger, because I think now everybody has iPhone chargers. So they took away that to reduce the space. And I think using such a big box just to accommodate charger, I think somebody felt it was a waste of space and money. that you spend for shipping. So I think that sleek box, sleek product, and the screen and everything. I mean, you hold it in your hand, you get a great feeling. I mean, that's a wonderful product. I mean, that definitely today's favorite, I would say. Tomorrow it might change because I think not too long ago I got these new AirPod Pros. I loved those as well because prior to that I had AirPods and they always had some trouble in connecting at times, whereas AirPod Pro, they have fixed a lot of those things. That is another thing, in product manager would look at changing requirements and because once, let's say, you come out with your MVP, minimum viable product, or let's say the first version of your product, you will know a lot more about how users are using it, because initial product may get designed based on your assumptions, many assumptions, but once people start using it in the real environment, that will give you more insight and into how user stories need to change. You go back to your teams, and then of course you redesign, right? I have come across some job postings which require product management plus DevOps background. Will this role become more common in future? Very good question, Ram. And I don't think I have seen that, but in my mind, I mean, if one could do that, I mean, it's a perfect. He's a great CPO in the future, because DevOps for me is the greatest revolution that has come to engineering, SDLC, the software development process. Um, in a while. And I, in fact, even wrote a blog post. DevOps is the soul of the software, and I feel DevOps is, of course, various people define DevOps in different ways, but I can think through this and see that yes, how, because a product management in a large hyperscale environment, meaning a software environment where deployments are happening frequently, would be a good guy to push for that, that automation that is part of DevOps, because he needs changes to happen frequently in a software environment, not in a iPhone kind of product, but in case of software environment, it's a perfect role, I think. I mean, one of the clients we have, I can tell you, they have one click deployment in DevOps, and we help them implement it, and they do deployments at least 5 times a day. Now I can see how various product managers or some people who are in product management there, different levels, have vested interest in making sure these deployments happen. So they would want to own DevOps, yes. That I can see that, and I think that I'm great thing that I'm learning from you, that I think product management from plus DevOps in software, in SaaS, in hyperscale SaaS environment would be the must. Very good, very good. Thank you for asking that question. What is the most challenging job among both? I may be biased, guys, here. I would choose product management because, as I said earlier, they can make or break a company. The product management is a very, very important job. In fact, you're in a startup, we used to say that your CEO is your product manager because he's defining the product. Your founder or CEO, I mean, a technologist or a CTO could also be in that role, but a person who defines the product, whatever you call him by any title, that is the most important person for the product. Not that engineers who develop it, not that people who deploy it or people who manage the project, they are not important, but one throat to choke, product manager, right? Let's go to the next. If we have no more questions, we'll end this. Thanks a lot. I think, yeah, we passed 30-minute time, I think 34 minutes. Thanks a lot for joining. I hope you got something out of this from my experience of all these gray hairs, and looking forward to you all joining the next one. Thank you. Have a great day.